Hi everyone, welcome to Brave Souls. Tonight we have a very lovely guest coming on with me. Her name is Brittany Sanzo, and she's going to come on and share her adoption story as an adoptee. So Brittany, once you come on and request to join in, we will get started. Hi Cody, welcome. We are just waiting for Brittany to come on. Hi Raya, hello, welcome. Hello. Thank you guys for joining. And here's Brittany. Alright, Brittany, request and we will get started. Hi Zoe. I haven't heard from you in a long time. How are you? Hey Nick. Okay, we are gonna go live with me any second now. Oh, hold on. I just sent a request for her to join me. How's everyone doing today? Let me know. Brittany, I did get your request, but it said you were unable to join. I tried requesting you. Doing good, recovering from COVID and handle it perfectly. Good. I'm glad you're doing okay. Good. Hi Anna, hello. Brittany, if you're still on, maybe try from your personal account. Okay, Brittany's on. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I just sent you a request, Brittany.
It worked.
Yay!
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Sorry, I was on my other account and I don't know what happened.
That's okay. I hit it. The request came up, but it said then you were unable to join. So, I'm not
Interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we got it now.
Exactly. How's it going? How's your day going?
It's going. It's been like a really long week. I can't believe it's only Wednesday, but
I know. Almost there though.
The weekend. Yeah. Thankfully tomorrow's Thursday. So.
Yes. Hi Kirk. Welcome. Yeah. I'm just waiting for a few more people to come on and we'll get started. Yeah. Hi King Lilo. Hi Hannah. Welcome. Do anything fun today?
No, I stayed at home.
Oh. Well, sometimes that's fun too, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but I had a client that got COVID, so then I had to wait until I was cleared from my doctor to be able to go back to work. So we're cleared though. I can go back to work tomorrow.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Absolutely. Hello, TDEMSX3. Hi, Rosie. Welcome. So I guess we can get started. So I always say in the beginning, whoever joins in late or aren't able to join, I always save my lives on the feed when we're done. So it'll be posted there on my page so anyone can go back and see it anytime. Hi, Kadia. Welcome. Welcome, girl. Okay, so Brittany, would you like to just start off and just share a little bit about your backstory and as an adoptee?
Yeah, sure. So, I grew up in South Jersey, Cape May County. I was born in Cape May County. I was adopted in Cape May County. I now live right outside DC. So I spent the first 6 years of my life in and out of foster care. My biological parents, they would get custody of me back, and then they would go and mess up again. My biological parents were addicts and just constantly in and out of jail, trouble with the law. But in the state of New Jersey, and I think in most states across the country, the ultimate goal with Child Protective Services is family reunification. So my biological mom would do her classes, stay clean, pass her drug test. I would get taken from foster care, go back with my mom. Then there would be another incident that would happen. Then I would go back to foster care. And this happened about 3 times before the state of New Jersey terminated parental rights with my biological parents. And I became property of the state of New Jersey. So I was enrolled in school through my foster mom. And my adoptive mom was actually my kindergarten art teacher. And the county that I grew up in, there's very rich parts of the county, but in deep Cape May, it's a lot of poverty. So a lot of the teachers at the school that my mom taught at knew the kids that were in foster care. They knew the children that were struggling. So my mom knew that I was in foster care. And she always talks about how when she went to, she found out, she knew I was in foster care, and she knew that she really liked me and that she wanted to help. So she went home to my dad and she was like, there's this little girl in my class who's in foster care. And my dad didn't skip a beat. He was like, what do we have to do? So they started classes to begin to foster. So in New Jersey, the way it works is you have to foster a child that you want to adopt for 6 months before you can legally decide if you want to move forward with adoption, which is kind of screwed up in a sense, because it's kind of like a test run to see if you want to return somebody back to where they came from.
Yeah.
So I moved in. Now you can imagine a 6-year-old moving in with their teacher. It was very, very weird for me. I didn't know what was going on, and my adoptive parents did not tell me that they were moving towards an adoption route. Okay. So I had moved from my foster mom's home into my teacher's house. So now I'm living with my teacher. And I moved in on September 2nd, 2001. So right before 9/11 happened and everything. Okay. So it was just a weird transition time. Mm-hmm. And I lived with my adoptive parents until May. And there was it was May 24th of 2002. And my mom came in my room and she was like, I thought she was waking me up to go to school, and she had pulled out this dress and she was like, do you want to wear this dress? And I was like, to school? And she was like, no, we're going to go to court. You're going to get adopted. Do you want to be part of our family? Oh. And it was a complete surprise. They didn't tell me that they were working towards adoption, but I was still working with my social worker. She would come to the house. They would interview my brother, my sister, my parents. Everything in the house was on lockdown. There were childproof locks on everything. But my 6-year-old brain, I didn't register what was going on. Yeah. So I was adopted when I was 6. I was about to turn 7. So that's kind of where everything started. Mm-hmm. So I never really growing up had any friends that were adopted. I didn't know anyone that was adopted, or the people that I did know that were adopted were not in similar situations as I was. They were either adopted at birth or would say that they were adopted, but it was just kind of oh, my mom got remarried and her husband adopted me, which is not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. So I didn't really have an adoptee community growing up. So
Neither
there
did
wasn't
I.
really, yeah, so there wasn't really anyone that could like fully understand and relate the struggles that I was dealing with. So I actually made a post on my Adoptee Talks page today about struggling with mental illness growing up. And one of the main ones that really started it for me was ADHD. And my adoptive parents were never big into medication. My mom was a kindergarten teacher, so she always knew, like, you know, kids have energy. They're children. They're supposed to be hyperactive. And if they're hyperactive, it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's wrong. It just means that they need to, like, get out and be active.
Exactly.
And for me, I had been through so much trauma going back and forth between my biological family to foster care, back to my biological family, in and out of different foster homes, that my hyperactivity was just heightened. Like, it wasn't a normal, like, ADHD child. It was like more than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I got into sports and I would release energy that way. But then it wasn't until my sophomore year of high school that I started failing 3 classes that my mom was like, maybe we need to look into medication for ADHD. So I started medication, and it sort of helped. It regulated my moods. I didn't argue as much. But then I weaned myself off of it after a couple of years because I realized that I functioned a lot better with my trauma brain being used to chaos, used to dysfunction, and I just operated in my brain so much better than that. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that being off of that type of medication really started to impact other aspects of my life as an adult, being in situations where, you know, you're trying to live through a pandemic and pay your bills and like deal with all your other personal stuff while also try to heal through trauma that is now coming back up in your adult life. Right. That I went and, you know, talked to a psychiatrist about my depression and my anxiety and my ADHD, and was able to like get on medications to help that. But I think also what really like kind of triggered all of that was the beginning of 2019 when I found out that my biological mom had died.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so I had never really, I had a closed adoption, so I wasn't legally allowed to talk to anyone until I had turned 18. And my adoptive parents had always said, like, if you ever want to reach out to them, if you want to contact them, let us know, we'll work with you. And I always just had this anger built up inside of me towards them because they had all of these opportunities to work with the state and the social workers to like regain custody of me, and they just threw it out every time over like drugs and alcohol and other things that, and it just really harbored with me for so long how pissed off that made me, that I was like, I don't even want anything to do with them. And then when I found out that my biological mom had passed, it hit me that I was like, I'm never going to be able to talk to her and say, you know, like, you really ruined so much of my life, in a sense where I'm 25 years old and have severe abandonment issues and have severe attachment issues. And, you know, this was all because of you, because you couldn't get your life together, and it impacted me. So I was really struggling with that for a while, and it took a huge toll on my relationship with my adoptive parents. Sure. Mainly because they for so long had talked to me about letting them be a part of that journey for me, and I did it on my own without communicating with them. But everything happened so fast. So I had Googled my biological mom's name, and a GoFundMe account came up for a what is the word? Like a funeral expense GoFundMe account. Okay. And I was like, this is really weird. I think that this is my biological mom. And I had seen a picture and I didn't know if it was actually her. So I decided to email the person that started the account. And I was like, this is really weird, but did like Sue have a daughter named Brittany? Because if so, I think I'm her daughter. I think this is my biological mom. Wow. Within 30 minutes, I got an email back, and the email was like, oh my God, like, we've been looking for you for 18 years. And like, my name is Laura. I'm your biological cousin. Like, we didn't know where you were. We thought your last name was something completely different. Like, we have been searching for you for so long. So now I'm in this like weird emotional state because I just found out my biological mom had passed. So I'm
and
like,
what a way to find out too, through a GoFundMe page.
yes.
I can't even imagine, honestly.
Yeah. So I had, it was just like a flood of emotions. I had been crying, and then I got this email and I was like, oh my God. And then it was just like, they were so excited. They had sent me probably 20 pictures of like me when I was really young living with them. And because there was points in time that I don't even remember, just because my brain has blocked out so much trauma, that I was living with my mom's sister for a while until they gained custody back of me. And then I went back to foster care, and then all of this stuff. So seeing pictures I had never seen in my life before of me before the age of 6 was just crazy. So I had tried to keep it really low key, where I had asked my cousin, like, please, I don't want anyone to know about this yet. I need to like process what's even going on. So if you can not tell your mom or not tell anyone, because I don't know these people. I don't know like who they know, and knowing the background of my biological family and the addictions and everything else is just, it was a lot. Yeah. So I had reached out to my adoptive parents, and I was like, I just found out that my biological mom passed, and it was really hard on them because they wanted to be involved in what was going on, and it really strained our relationship completely for nearly the entire year. I had gotten into multiple arguments with my adoptive mom. Most of this went through my mom. My mom and I talk nearly every day. So a lot of our relationship is really, really close. So I feel that I can talk to her in ways that I can't really talk to my dad. And that was really bad for our relationship, because we would get in these heated arguments where she was like, you need to talk to your brother and sister about what you found out. And I was like, I don't need to talk to anyone about anything. Like, I am in control of this situation, and I will tell them when I'm ready. And we had gotten into really a lot of heated arguments. There was one time I actually said to my mom, like, I wish you never adopted me. And I was so hurt by their response, and I felt very unsupported. And it was just a rough year all around. Like,
you had
my apartment
to process. That was a lot.
Yeah. And like, the year started, like, my apartment had flooded. I was forced to move out early. I lost my job. It was just like a very rough year all around. And I felt very unsupported from my family. And then I started self-sabotaging my own relationships in my life because I didn't know how to cope with anything. I had never been put in therapy before. So I made the step to get a therapist and start like talking to a therapist about what was going on, because, and I also wasn't at this time, like, I hadn't gone to a psychiatrist to talk about my like major depressive disorder, my anxiety. So it was just a really hard time for me in my life. And thankfully, like, time has healed the relationship with my parents. It took a very long time. I would go home to see them in New Jersey, and we wouldn't even talk about anything, which it was like the elephant in the room. Like, I want to talk about this, and I would try to bring it up, and it would just get shut down. And I was like, this is part of who I am.
And shut down on their end.
It shut down on both ends.
Both ends.
Yeah. Or the subject would be changed or anything. So for a really long time, I just didn't even bring anything up with my parents because I felt rejected all over again when I would try to bring any of this up. And there was a point in the summer, when I went home with my mom, and I was like, as much as you don't want to acknowledge this, and because my mom is always like, I never even think that you're adopted anymore. You've just been in our lives for so long that it just feels like you've always been here. And I'm like, while I get that, there was a whole 6 years of my life that I wasn't in your life. And there's a lot, this is where I come from. Like, these are the people I come from. This is my
your biological roots.
Yes, my biological family. So it was really,
I'm sorry about the phone.
It's okay. It was just like a really rough, adjustment period. So it wasn't until recently, probably about 2 months ago, that my mom had reached out to me and asked me about my biological health history, because I was talking to her about going to the doctor, and with COVID and everything, it's just like, you need to know like your pre-existing stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that she had ever really like reached out to me, showing interest that she wanted to know like what I had found out from my biological family in relation to like my health.
Mm-hmm.
And I had let her know how much that meant to me, because I was just like, you know, you've never really made the effort, and like you showing interest like really means a lot to me. And then this
It
past
shows what you're
Christmas,
feeling is valid, you know, it matters.
yeah. So this past Christmas, she did the same thing where she was like, have you heard from your biological family and stuff like that? And it was really helpful. But I found that the most helpful thing, like through this entire experience in my adult life so far, has definitely been creating my other Instagram account, my Adoptees Talk page, because like I said, growing up, I didn't know anyone else who was adopted, let alone people who were in foster care. And I know the first time that we talked, I brought up how many different layers of this community there really are.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
while you may be adopted, you might not know what it's like to be in foster care and be around other people, or like, you know, you might not know what it's like to be a transracial adoptee, because I'm not. I was adopted by, I'm a white girl adopted by a white family, or somebody who was adopted from out of the country. Like, there's so many different layers of it.
Layers of adoption. Absolutely.
Yeah, so being able to kind of learn more, because even though I am adopted, I'm not an expert in adoption. I don't know like the different traumas that other people face who are adopted, which is so important to know, because you can then try to, you know, be there for other people within this community and be a support system for them. And I think that that's so important.
We're an expert of our own life.
Yes.
Our own life experience. And that's why whenever I give advice, or I tell people things, it's always based on my own experience and how I felt and how I interpret it.
Yeah.
I can never speak for everyone, because I don't know what everyone's feeling. I just know what I feel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you can't, and there's some people who, you know, they've never really had a feeling of abandonment or attachment issues or rejection, and their adoption story has been so just flat and great. But then you have people who, they go through traumas and they don't have anyone who understands them or supports them. So I think it's so important to have conversations like these, to hear other people's stories and be like, oh my God, I was also in that situation. And I know exactly what you're going through, because that's not this isn't something that you come across very often in your day-to-day communities. So yeah.
Definitely. I can't imagine just everything you've had to process. That's a lot. And you know, I recently just put a post up, and I just basically said how I'm doing these lives to help bring awareness to the emotional trauma, you know, adoption is, you know, from birth to adulthood.
Yeah.
And you know, trauma starts at birth, actually even before birth. You know, you don't know what the situation was like for your birth parents, and that could have been a traumatic experience, and then you were the result of that experience, and then that you are the added trauma along with it, and then it just affects us our whole lives, basically. And and like I said, like, we're all adopted, but we all have different stories.
Yeah.
Different kind of trauma.
I've come to learn with this community that there's like one or two things that we all really, really have in common, and we all really share. And that's really attachment and abandonment issues. And it's so natural knowing that, I mean, as soon as you're taken from your biological roots, that's abandonment and attachment just breaking within itself. And I have noticed so much in my adult life that has impacted nearly every single relationship. And it wasn't until I started going to therapy and started to address it that I have started to learn how to maneuver around recognizing when I'm self-sabotaging my own relationships because of my trauma. And it's like you have this headspace where everyone's going to leave anyway, but it's going to hurt less if I cut it off first, because
What a
then they
horrible
can't
feeling
hurt
it
me.
is. That is a horrible, and that you just nailed it with that
Yeah.
comment. And that's exactly how I felt as well. Well, everyone, my birth mother left, so everyone else is going to leave. I just felt detached from people and disconnected, and I felt like, well, maybe you won't stay around, or like you said, you self-sabotage it because you're so used to, I guess, feeling that loss or that rejection or
the abandonment.
That's a horrible feeling to have, especially when you feel it all over again.
Yeah, and I think that we do that because we weren't in control at the time that we were initially separated. So it's a feeling of empowerment for us, and like a sense of control that I can be in control of what's about to happen.
Exactly.
And it's just, I have every single adoptee I've talked to experiences this. Yeah. It's like across the board. Yeah. So that's something I make a big point to talk about in my adoptees talk page is, abandonment and attachment, and how to recognize when you're doing that, because it does not happen overnight. No. It's gonna, you're not constantly arguing with everyone in your life and trying to break things off. It's not something that happens constantly. Right. But as soon as a minor inconvenience happens and you're like, I don't even want to deal with this, I'm just going to end it completely. Yeah. That's when you have to take a step back and recognize what that is and why you're doing that. Mm-hmm. And that's how you break that pattern. Yeah. Or else you're going to live your whole life sabotaging all of your very important relationships.
And you're just going to live an unhappy life because we just keep making bad decisions because of our own insecurities or our own feelings we have about ourselves that aren't true. Yeah. And Ray said sharing is so important. Yes, it is. Anastasia said, well, I can 100% relate. And Katia said, me too. Yeah. So, I mean, these are all also adoptees. And, yeah, it's a common feelings we all have. And it's true. Very true.
And being able to start doing that and recognizing that kind of also begins with your own boundaries, which is another thing that I love to talk about, because I'm a social worker myself. So I'm always enforcing boundaries between myself and my clients, and being able to move those boundaries into your own personal relationships by saying, this is what I accept and this is what I want out of our relationship. And if you don't respect those boundaries, then I'm obligated to either discontinue our relationship or have some sort of repercussion, because these are boundaries that are really important to me. And I'm not going to tolerate either disrespect or, whatever those may be. So starting with boundaries setting is really good with, moving forward in addressing your attachment and abandonment disorder and issues.
Exactly. So for me, through my healing journey, there's two things that I have to, I use is acceptance and self-love. I've learned acceptance is the first part of it. You have to learn to accept what it was or what it is, and I say this a lot, but I feel like you can never say this too many times. You are not, your adoption does not define you. Yeah. It shapes you. And you cannot let it ruin your life. And that's when I started accepting what it was. Like, I'm the product of rape, and I felt abandoned my whole life. And I blame myself for what happened to my birth mother. And I hated everybody. I hated myself. And until I finally just learned to accept that I didn't do this. I didn't do this to anybody, but I have a choice of what I'm doing to myself. Yeah. And I can't let it ruin my life anymore. I can't let it make, if I put myself in bad situations because I had such low self-confidence. And that was the first step of my healing journey, is acceptance. And then I was able to start finally loving myself and seeing myself the way others see me. And, but yeah, there's so many different things in healing journey, like you said, boundaries, but acceptance and love, and you just gotta forgive yourself. It's not your fault.
Yeah. And to make sure that you're understanding that, like, there is no time frame on this. And I think you posted about that earlier today, about how people have expectations of, like, oh, well, I did this when I was your age and you're not doing, and it's like, there is no time.
Oh, like the ticking, that your clock is
Yes.
ticking, where you feel like
Yeah.
that added pressure because everyone has their crap together. You feel like you need to have yours, or like, I just feel like, why? Don't
Yeah.
people need to stop comparing themselves to other people. And
Yeah.
plus, you really don't know what that person is going through in their own minds. They might, on the exterior, just walk around proud and confident, but you have no idea what they're dealing with inside. They might feel just as horrible as you do, or they might
Especially,
also feel the
especially on
pressure.
social media.
Exactly.
Especially on social media. So
And that's why, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I said that's why I try to talk about the good and the bad. I don't just go on my social media and just, I'm bubbly and I'm positive, but I don't want to just show that all the time to people, because that's not who I am all the time. On days I am feeling sad, or I'm having bad days, or the things I'm feeling about myself, I want to tell people to know, like, we're all human.
Yeah.
We all, beat ourselves up time to time. We all feel down time to time, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to be kinder to ourselves and nicer, and just forgive ourselves, and just be patient, that, let ourselves feel. You have to feel to heal, and you just have to take a step back and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're doing
100%.
okay. You're doing enough.
Yeah.
So, but what were you saying? Before I got you off?
What was I saying? I don't know.
Katia said she loves that you're now a social worker. I'm sure you're amazing.
Yes, I actually went into social work because of my social worker when I lived in foster care. And it was my goal to work in child welfare, child protective services. When I got to college, I started doing my program, my social work program that I did. You had to work in you had to, like, volunteer in different aspects of social work, whether it was like gerontology or disabilities or child welfare. I actually ended up doing a lot of work with the homeless community, and now I am a homeless outreach social worker right outside DC. I work with 2 other people on my team. We outreach our community. We engage with people on the street. We open them up in case management. We eventually house them. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my career.
That's beautiful work you're doing.
Yeah, so I love it. I can't really see myself doing anything else. It's probably, looking back on it, probably for the best that I am not a child welfare worker. I don't know if I would, when I would have started my career, if I would have been in any type of headspace to even, because I hadn't even acknowledged any of this until about 2019. I just kind of swept everything under the rug. So I'm probably better off in the field I'm in right now, because I hadn't even started my healing journey, and I feel like I would have really just put all of my own stuff into the work I was doing, which is not helpful when it comes down to the type of work that I do. But yeah, that's why I got into social work.
That's awesome. That is amazing. There was a question I wanted to ask you. Ray said, good for you. That's awesome. I'm looking into the same field. That's good.
It's great. It's a great field.
Good.
You meet some really awesome people.
Good. So I wanted to ask you, you don't have to answer this if you feel uncomfortable, but your birth father, do you know, have you tried to reach out to him? Do you know anything about him, or?
So he currently lives in the same county as my adoptive parents. My biological father was very abusive, in many different forms. He abused substances. He abused my biological mom. A lot of my early childhood memories that I do have are very negative. And, at that age, you remember very traumatic things because they're traumatic. So all of my memories I have that I associate with my biological father are very negative feelings and very negative memories. Due to the nature of what I do remember about him, I have made the decision as of right now in my journey to not reach out to him. I don't want him knowing anything about me. I have asked the biological family that I have come in contact with, who live They live in Virginia, so they're not like too far from me, but they're my biological mom's family.
Okay.
They don't like him either because he was the reason why my biological mom had been addicted to drugs and been involved in all of these things. So they don't have a good feeling about him either. They try to stay away from him. They have respected my request to not inform him of their relationships with me, which I really appreciate. But when it comes down to it, I probably will only ever reach out to him if I need medical information. That's probably about it. But I did recently see him pop up on my People You May Know on Facebook about a week ago. And that really made me a little bit uneasy because I haven't been looking for him and I don't know why he would have popped up. Maybe he was searching for me. I don't know. But as of right now, he hasn't messaged me on Facebook. He has not added me. My Facebook is completely locked down and private, like for that reason and for the reason of the work I do. I don't want clients knowing anything about me.
Of course, yeah.
But for right now, yeah, he's not really in my brain of anyone that I want to be involved with. I don't want him getting anywhere near my adoptive parents. I don't want him, because he still lives in that area. Through conversations with my biological family, he's not doing well. He was not doing well before my biological mom died. Heavy drinker. He's probably going to drink himself to death. And I've been contemplating that whole, do I want to reach out to him before he dies so I don't have that whole feeling I had when I found out my biological mom dies? But then I also don't want to open up. I mean, he could still be alive for another 20 years. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm at a pretty good place in my life right now without him. So I'm not interested in opening that up
and
right now.
You can't force that. You have to do it at your own time. And
yeah.
If you're not ready, and if there's any kind of gut telling you that, like, to back off, you need to listen to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe one day, but not anytime in the near future from what I can think.
And that's all up to you. It's up to, no one else. But you make that decision when it's right for you.
Yeah.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, do you have anything else that you would like to share to anyone? I do have a couple little questions at the end, but I just want to make sure you said everything you wanted to say. And
yeah, that's about it. I mean, if anyone's watching and you want to follow my Instagram page,
yes, go follow Brittany at Adoptee Talks.
Yep.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Brittany before I ask her my questions? Just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. I don't think so, no. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, so I usually ask at the end if I have enough time, and I do. What advice would you give to adoptees? And then what advice would you give to adoptive parents?
Oh, okay. So for adoptees, read. I think that is so important. I have come across some of the best books that have helped me like learn things about myself that I didn't even know like about myself before. So one of my favorite books is called 20 Things Adoptees Wish Their Adoptive Parents Knew. Okay. And it is by far the best adoptee related book I've ever read. It's very easy to read. It's like bullet points. It kind of breaks down things. And as I went through and was reading it, I was like, I never even knew the reason why I did things until I read this book. So one of them was birthdays. And every year on my birthday, I'm so depressed. Which is, it's like so ridiculous for people who aren't adopted. And I always like had these like negative feelings around my birthday. And then I got that book and it was like many people who are adopted around their birthdays feel so depressed because it's the day that you were taken from your biological family. And like, whether you remember it or not, it's traumatic and your brain associates your birthday with that memory. So I think that that's really important, is to do research, because while you may be an expert on your own situation, there's a lot of other things that you might not even know why you do it until somebody in a book points it out and you're like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense as to why I behave the way I behave, or why my brain acts like this or whatever. So I think that would be one like tip of advice for adoptees, is to definitely read up, because it's just so important. And also to go to therapy, because it's just so important to talk to somebody. And if you can, find an adoptee focused therapist opposed to a generalized therapist.
Right.
My therapist is a adoptee focused therapist, and it's so much easier talking to somebody who understands what I'm talking about in a very specific way. It might be a little bit hard, but it actually could be easier now that everything is telehealth because of COVID.
Right.
So you might be able to find a specialized therapist related to adoption through like telehealth. And then for adoptive parents, put your kid in therapy. As like, I have a couple friends who have reached out to me who are thinking to foster to adopt. And I have told them from the beginning, like, if you do, get your child in therapy as soon as they possibly can go, because I was never in therapy, and I went 23 years of my life, and then once all of this happened, I had a complete and mental breakdown. I did not know how to cope with anything. I didn't have the coping skills to do so. I didn't know how to properly express why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I think that had I been in therapy earlier, it would have really helped me process and articulate why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I think that therapy is just so important. And also, like, have the conversations with your child about, it's okay for you to feel like this. If you want me to help you, I will help you. If you don't want my help, I won't intrude. Because sometimes it's hard when you have a parent who wants to be involved in every aspect, and it's not helpful if you feel like you need to do something on your own. And just be understanding when things do come up, because stuff will come up and it's inevitable. Like, it will come up. So to just be prepared and be able to know how to have those hard conversations when those hard conversations come up.
And give them a safe place to ask questions and feel the way they want to feel without taking it personally.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Perfect.
I see someone asked, what have you learned the most through social work? Patience. I am the least patient person you will ever meet in like every aspect of it. I'm not saying that I am perfect at being patient, but working in the population I work with has taught me how to be very patient, because homelessness within itself is like, so you have people who are addicts, people who are in jail, people who have severe mental illness, people who were rejected by their family, people who have severe trauma, who, like, you know, social work within itself is kind of, it's a therapeutic profession. So I take on a lot of other people's trauma throughout my day. And I take a lot of verbal abuse from people I work with, honestly, because they don't have anyone else who is dedicated to working with them and being there for them. People will take out their emotions on you, and learning how to be patient and not to take it personally, and know that they're not mad at me. They're mad at their entire situation, and they're upset and whatever. So probably patience.
And that's a great way to look at it too. A lot of people struggle with looking at things from another point of view. Yes. And they just automatically take, like, why are they talking to me like this, or why are they acting like that? And it's just like you don't realize, like, you don't know what they're going through, or like, what their current situation is and what they've been through.
Yeah. So that's probably the main thing that I've learned. And I've been in the field for 4 years now, and it took me time, because when I first started, my first actual job, I worked in human trafficking, and I took everything personally. I mean, those are like the most traumatized women that you'll ever meet. And like, they would have outbursts, and I would get screamed at. I was like 21, fresh out of college, and I was like, why are you yelling at me? I'm just trying to help. But as you progress into the field, you get a thicker skin, and you don't let things get to you as personal.
Exactly. Well, you know, this January is Human
Trafficking Awareness Month. Yep.
A good friend of mine is actually a survivor of sex trafficking.
Wow.
And she came on my live Monday for Human Trafficking Awareness Day to share a little bit about her story. She's going to come back with me to do a part 2 to further into detail. But yeah, it's but she's a true inspiration. She's turning her pain into purpose, and you are as well. And I love seeing success stories of the trauma, but what you do with that trauma means everything. So I'm very proud of you, and I hope you're proud of yourself because you're doing great.
Thank you.
You're doing amazing. Ray said, yeah, I can relate. I never went to therapy either. I didn't either at all. And Anastasia said, yes, 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 I agree. But okay, well, I thank you so much, Brittany, for coming on tonight and sharing your story and being brave, and just keep shining, keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing work. And when you finally come to the day if you want to reach out to your birth father, I give you a lot of grace for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you everyone for joining tonight, and showing Brittany a lot of love and support. And that's all anyone needs with anything that they're going through, is just love and support for people. So we appreciate you all. Brittany, thank you so much.
No problem.
Have a wonderful night, and we will talk soon.
You too. All right. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.